Hey everyone, so this week I'm going to focus on two things. First, I want to talk about what happened yesterday in the stock market, in the crypto market, and provide a little bit of commentary because what I find is that if you count on the usual websites, MarketWatch, Yahoo Finance, truthfully, even like the old form media that's on websites, the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, they all provide very sensationalized views of anything that happens. So I just want to describe what was put out there and what I believe is actually the reality. So yesterday, the news, I guess, was breaking that a real estate company in China called Evergrande was having a liquidity crisis. In other words, their bankers were unwilling to give them additional amounts of money for them to continue to fund themselves. And of course, the sort of internet media sort of started to go crazy. People started to put headlines like, "Oh, this is China's Lehman," and of course there was a kind of mini panic, if you will, among stock market investors and then among crypto investors. Truthfully, the crypto selling started well ahead of the stock market because the crypto markets are open all the time. So you can start selling at any point in time from anywhere in the world. And then, of course, the stock markets followed. And when you go and look at the actual situation, here's the reality in my judgment, which is that Evergrande, which is a very large Chinese real estate company, is definitely having a significant issue. And in truth, real estate in China has been a difficult area for some period of time. And it looks like that opportunity, that area in China is definitely something that the Chinese government is sort of trying to sort of control so that it doesn't cause actually an even bigger problem for its country. So the size of Evergrande's debts are quite large. The estimates that I saw were $300 billion. And then, of course, people were making very large claims that this was going to be transmitted throughout the Chinese economy, and then that would then lead itself into the US economy. And I think all of that is kind of BS. I believe that even for China, $300 billion, while quite large, is not going to debilitate their economy. I saw one posting from someone I follow on Twitter that said that 300 billion would be sort of a significant amount for like one of their smallest provinces. And so for the size of China, it's fairly small. And then for the second thing, which was really being hyped in a big way, which is that this is going to be transmitted all over the world and it's going to cause another Lehman Brothers, which are definitely being pushed by the folks that are short, probably started going short on Friday and then started to push this news out into the media. That's a complete nonsense. That's my judgment, because Chinese finance, truthfully, is quite separate from a lot of other parts of the world. Now, for sure, there are investment banks and Western banks that probably have lent money to them, and they're definitely going to face some pain. However, even for them, post 2008 and the crisis in 2008, there's regulators from every single country are quite careful in allowing any bank to take on any significant risk. So while there will be some pain, there's going to be no sort of domino type effect like what happened after Lehman Brothers was allowed to go bankrupt in the United States in 2008, where really it caused a ripple effect that went around the world. And truthfully, one of the few places it didn't have any effect was actually China. And in this case, there's definitely going to be a significant effect in China in the real estate market. However, my experience is that China is actually a fairly good manager of its economy. It is not a capitalist economy. It's not a completely socialist economy. It is something that swings between the two, and it's always somewhere in the middle. And in my judgment, they will find a way to manage through this. They will probably get other property companies to absorb all of the operations of this company. They will get the banks to take some amount of bad debt. They will try to make sure that regular Chinese people are hurt as little as possible. And then, unfortunately, in all likelihood, the Western banks that chose to give money are probably, well, they're probably not going to get any money back. And that's just going to be the reality of it. Nonetheless, from our perspective, is it going to change our outlook for our stocks, America 2.0, fourth industrial revolution stocks? No, it doesn't change anything at all. All that really happened is that yesterday's prices got marked down anywhere from 5 to 10%. Clearly, some number of large asset managers decided that they wanted to cut their equity exposure and probably took down their exposures by 1 or 2%. And so when that happens, essentially, you just got a very large block of stock of all kinds, small, medium, large, every sector. And that's just being pushed into the market, and you're willing to take any price. And as I like to tell all of you during Profits Unlimited updates, if we see other people taking low prices, terrible prices, foolish prices, why would we choose to join them? That seems to be a really dumb thing to do. So this kind of volatility is par for the course. It's going to be there regularly. I actually retweeted Charles Bailello that said that, I forget, this is like the 50th 5% correction we've gone through. He's measuring it using the S&P 500, which is pretty much irrelevant for us, where we're following America 2.0 and fourth industrial revolution stocks exclusively. Nonetheless, what happens with the S&P 500 does affect us on a temporary basis. So this is pretty much par for the course, and we'll have another one. There'll be some piece of news. And the final thing I'll say is that there's always some piece of FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt, that the media is going to use to panic you. The goal is to make you panic. The goal is to make you click, to be afraid, and then in the end, to sort of serve folks that sit on the other side of the trade, where you sell to them, and later on, that stock will get marked up at higher and higher prices, and you'll say, oh, I should have held on to it. I would have thousands of percent of gain, hundreds of percent of gain. So I am still BOP. We never sold anything yesterday. And we generally are always going to be focused on the long term. As you know, our timeframes are a minimum of 1 to 3 years. We're willing to endure through volatility. If you look through the Profits Unlimited portfolio, other portfolios, we have stocks that are down 70% and we're still in it. Why? Because we still believe that they can go up, and the upside is so great, and they are still so small that we think we can make huge money. So that's the bottom line to our philosophy, which is that we're in for the long term. We're willing to endure through volatility, and we want to make big money over time. And nothing that's going on in China, or nothing that happened in the markets yesterday changes anything. I am still BOP on our portfolios across all of our services. All right, quickly, I want to go to the second thing that I want to mention in this video, which is the subject of this t-shirt. So if you're a space aficionado like I am, you know that on Saturday, 4 regular people, civilians, dropped back into the ocean from space after SpaceX launched them about 4 days earlier. And this is a historic mission. It's the first time that you've had an all-civilian crew go up into space, into actual space, not like the sort of kind of, I don't want to sound like a put down, but the kind of like joyrides that Richard Branson had with Virgin Galactic and that Jeff Bezos had with his Blue Origin. This is an actual launch that actually took 4 civilians into space. If something went wrong there, they would be on the hook to actually pilot that craft back. So this is a big deal. They also, I want to mention, raised over $200 million, including a $50 million contribution from Elon Musk. And one of the astronauts, he contributed $100 million. So $200 million that was raised for the St. Jude's Hospital, which is an incredible organization that really helps, in particular with children and childhood cancer. So for a good cause, a historic mission for civilians going into space. And now I believe that it really starts to give people a picture. I mean, they were called the Inspiration 4 because that was the name of the mission. And I read a report this morning that says that SpaceX's email inboxes, phones, if you will, are ringing off the hook with people who want to go to space. Because if you look at this chart, what this mission really illustrates to people is that which is that the cost of the space shuttle taking, this is in kilograms, we would have to probably do it in pounds, but makes the point, was $100,000 in 1980 or so. And they pushed that curve down a little bit. However, you can see that with SpaceX coming with Falcon 1 and now SpaceX being there with Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy, the cost is significantly cheaper. And I just wanted to confirm that these numbers are correct. So I found this on a website. They asked, what's the current cost per pound? And it does seem to be somewhere in the $2,000 to $2,200 category, which is significantly greater than almost every other country. And what that is going to do is it's going to make a lot of people think of new projects that they can now send into space, do in space, because these 4 civilians, they took some research up there, they did some scientific experiments up there, and they themselves obviously were experiments themselves, because all the information about their bodies, about everything that they did now is also being collected. And in the past, all of that information was segregated because all the previous space programs are national, and you can never get access to any of that. So this was a historic mission in every way. Number one, for civilians in space, of being allowed to operate an actual spaceship in space. Second, research that is now going to be available to anybody. So open source research that's going to be available to anybody. And now an illustration for so many projects that people have been thinking about, looking at, and say, whoa, this is now in the realm of affordability, and we don't necessarily have to have astronauts trained for years and years and years, maybe a half a decade. Instead, you can go through some number of months of training and you can go up and do it. So the number of projects that are going to get going in space is going to be absolutely massive, absolutely huge. And I believe it's going to really light a fire, if you will, underneath space stocks. However, particular space stocks, because even with respect to space stocks, there's Space 1.0, and these are companies that are called Legacy Space, and they really are the ones that help build the space shuttle and sort of the more expensive rockets. And then there are all the more recent companies. SpaceX is the leader of it. There's other ones out there like Rocket Labs and others, Astra and others. And I believe that when you see that cost curve being bent like that, that's usually a boom that's coming, a massive, gigantic boom that's coming that you want to get in on exactly now. In other words, when it's really clear to everybody else, whoa, this is real. We're starting to see sort of mainstream adoption coming. And this is when money starts to get interested and starts to really push in and see that the sales, the earnings, are going to be huge 1, 3, 5, 7, 10 years out, and they start to come and buy stocks. So I would tell you this is the moment to buy into space. And I have one very small stock in the Profits Unlimited portfolio. It went through a very difficult time because it came SPAC. I'm not going to give it away because that would be unfair. to our paid readers. So if you want to watch my amazing presentation on space, click on the strong hands above, and it will invite you to subscribe to Profits Unlimited, and then you will get access to a report that has our views on space, gives you 3 stocks that we believe are absolutely integral to Space 2.0. So that's my video for this week. Stock market update, Space 2.0 now launched, and I'll have another video for you next week. Until then, this is Paul saying